Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, I am Rajarsi Dasa. Welcome to Hare Krishna today. On today's program, a special guest with us again, His Grace Sankirtana Dasa, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Sankirtan Prabhu, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me back.
So, today we're going to speak about a very interesting subject matter, and Sankirtan Prabhu is going to speak about the creation. Yes, everyone wants to know about the origin of this wonderful manifestation. So, Sankirtan Prabhu, tell us something about this creation here.
Well, a lot of people are very, very curious, and there are so much speculation, so many different theories. As a matter of fact, there's a new book out. I forget the name of the author, but it's called The Hidden Reality. And in The Hidden Reality, the author puts forth a premise that we all know this one universe that we're in, but the author is putting forth the premise that there are innumerable universes. And so we, of course, understand
from the Vedic scriptures, yes, that there are innumerable universes in the material world.
There's
or in existence.
In the transcendental realm, there's Mahavishnu, and he is lying in Yoga Nidra, mystic slumber. And from the pores of his being, as he's breathing out, there are innumerable universes manifesting themselves and entering into a creation state. And each one of these universes are expanding as he's breathing out. And then upon his inward breath, then all of the universes begin to contract and once again enter into Mahavishnu's being. This state is called avyakta, or unmanifested state.
Maybe just to give our viewing audience, sometimes we're speaking about the yugas, right? Are we speaking about Mahavishnu breathing in, breathing out? Let me just give you a little bit about the time perspective, right? We describe the four yugas like this age we are living in is called Kali Yuga, and it lasts for 432,000 years. But prior to this, there is, the Dwapara Yuga, which is 864,000 years. Then Treta Yuga, 3 times the duration of Kali. Satya, 4 times the duration. But then, these 4 ages taken together, when you multiply it 1,000 times, that's Brahma's just 1 day. Right? Now Brahma has his months and years and so on. And it says that Brahma's 100 years is that one breath of Mahavishnu you're speaking about.
100 years of Brahma, which is...
his lifetime is just a breath of Mahavishnu.
Exactly.
So the duration of the creation is something really fantastic, but it's just a breath of Mahavishnu, and he's breathing all the time.
Yeah, so all of these millenniums, all of the generations, the countless millenniums and generations that are unfolding in human history, is just, everything is taking place in just one outward breath of Mahavishnu. But what happens is when he breathes out and all of these universes are created, he enters into each and every one of these universes. He is called Garbha. Garbha means that the universe is compared to an egg. And so he enters into each and every one of these universes as Garbhadaksha Vishnu. And so in that universe, he is perspiring. And there's a causal ocean at the bottom of the universe. And he is residing there. And in our universe in particular, Garbhadak Vishnu, from his navel is coming a lotus flower, and it grows and it grows, and the lotus opens into 1,000-petaled lotus, and there in the middle is Lord Brahma. And Brahma is a little confused. He's looking around. Actually, Brahma doesn't have to look around too much. He has 4 heads facing the 4 directions.
Right.
But it's all darkness. There's no sun, there's no stars, there's nothing. Nothing at all. And he's a little confused. He's wondering, what's going on here? What am I supposed to do? He doesn't realize in what situation he's in. And so as he explores his situation, he finds the stem of the lotus. And he begins to climb down the stem. And
In search
of
his origin.
Yeah, looking for his purpose, his origin. And as he's climbing down the stem, he hears a sound. Tapa, tapa, tapa. And tapa in Sanskrit, this is the seed of tapasya. Tapasya means to perform some austerity, some penance, some meditation, to understand the purpose of our lives and our creation. And the funny thing is that this message was received by Brahma at the dawn of creation, but the same message is going out to each and every one of us. Because if you listen to your heart and the rhythm of the heart and the sound of the heart, tapa, 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 tapa.
So something is urging us that we should perform tapa.
Yeah, tapasya, right.
I remember that famous verse by Lord Rishabhadev where he says, tapo divyam, he's speaking to his sons, and he says that the purpose of the human life is to perform divine austerity, to get Brahmasukha, spiritual happiness, to anantam, that is unending. So it's interesting that you're making this point that we all expect it. Of course, they say no pain, no gain. So, so people can be successful without it. But we're speaking about divine austerity.
Well, everyone, really, in whatever position in life you're in, you are performing some austerities. For instance, if you're a child going to school.
That's austerity.
Right, you're going to the school, you have to do the homework that the teacher assigns, and then if you go to college, then you also have to take various courses that are required in college, and that you have to do the assignments that the teacher provides, and the reports, and the tests. So all of this is a form of austerity.
Before we proceed further, I'd like you to clarify something, because on our program so often I would quote that Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, I am the source of everything in existence. I am attributing that to Krishna. However, you are speaking about Mahavishnu and universes coming from him. But generally Hindus hear about Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, that Brahma is the creator. So the people may become really confused. They may say, you're saying about Krishna is the source of everything. Here you're talking about all the universes coming from Mahavishnu, and here we're talking about Brahma being born. We thought he was the creator. Can you please clarify?
Well, there are many innumerable manifestations of Krishna, and also of the Godhead. There's the Vishnu, of course. Here in one instance you have Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, who comes again and manifests in each universe, and then Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who manifests himself in the heart of each person, and even he's located within every atom. Okay. And so just in this one instance you have 3 Vishnus. Of course, there are innumerable aspects of the Godhead, and all of these aspects, they deal with various functions and various pastimes, but Krishna is referred to as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so even though there are innumerable personalities that comprise the Godhead, and they're all manifesting from Krishna, Krishna himself is referred to as the Supreme. So it's just like Prabhupada compares that you have a flame, and from that flame then you can create other flames.
Okay, but there's one that is the origin.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Interesting. So Also, well, before we go further, sometimes people say what Hindus worship many gods. So you're speaking about many personalities. We're speaking about a Godhead, many forms of God. But then sometimes people become really confused because there are millions of devatas controlling existence. So if people are not so educated, they become really confused. They think, well, one is all and all is one. They think that they're all the same. So could you, explain some basic understanding that there may be many, but how to understand
Yes.
some of the differences?
Well, it's just like, for instance, here in the United States, there's the President of the United States, and he has a cabinet. And so the devas, the various demigods that are in control of universal affairs, they're just like the cabinet. You have a cabinet for health and a position for education and another position for transportation and another one for the military affairs. So many positions in the cabinet. And so also Krishna, he is the supreme enjoyer. He's not busy trying to, just balance everything. He has a cabinet, and this cabinet is in charge of the various universal affairs. Vayu is in charge of the wind. Agni is in charge of the fire. Surya is in charge of the sun. And then there's Varuna in charge of the water. Indra is in charge of the rainfall and the thunderbolts. And so there are many personalities. These are in the category of demigods. And then there's other personalities who are in the category of the Godhead or the avatars. And these avatars, there are various classifications. There's the Leela avatars. And these avatars descend into the material world to perform various pastimes. And then you're mentioning there's the Guna avatars.
Who, as Hindus know, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, and they control the gunas, the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Okay, maybe you can make a little distinction again about devatas are empowered representatives of God, those who are invested with some power, but the avatars are the Lord's personal expansions in different categories.
Well, just like Lord Brahma, for instance. Lord Brahma, he is a demigod, although in that one classification he is part of the Guna avatars, but he's also a demigod. And so at the dawn of creation, when from the navel of Mahavishnu,
Garbo.
excuse me, thank you. So from the navel of Garbhodak Vishnu, there's the lotus flower is growing and growing, and it blossoms into a 1,000-petal lotus. And there in the middle is Brahma. And so Brahma, he's looking around. He doesn't know what to think. He's rather confused. Of course, he doesn't have to look around because he has four heads facing the four directions.
Right.
But there's no sun, no stars, nothing. It's complete darkness. So Brahma is a little confused as to the purpose of his life. What is he supposed to do with himself? And this kind of reflects on our own condition, because sometimes we're also confused. What am I supposed to do with my life?
I remember a comment by Srila Prabhupada in that part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada said that a person may not know what is God, who is God, whether he's a person, he's not a person. But Srila Prabhupada said what is required is self-surrender. Like Brahma, he attempted on his own to find his source, but he couldn't. But then, when he surrendered himself, then he was able. So Srila Prabhupada made that point, that what is required is a person has to be willing to surrender to that which is supreme, and then the Lord will take it up from there.
Well, this is exactly what happened to Brahma. Because in his confusion, he was trying to search around where he was. And then he found the stem of the lotus and he began to climb down the stem of the lotus. And as he's climbing down the stem, he hears a sound. Tapa, tapa, tapa. And tapa is the seed of the Sanskrit word tapasya. So Brahma has a realization that he has to perform some austerity. He has to perform some penance, some meditation. And the amazing thing is that even though this message was given by the Lord to Brahma at the dawn of creation, we're still getting the same message. God has arranged that we're getting this message because if you listen to the heart, the rhythm, the beating of the heart, is that same message that Brahma received. Tapa, 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 tapa. So we're getting that message at every moment of our lives. And so to perform tapasya is not something extraordinary, something unusual. Even children are performing tapasya. They're going to the school, they're taking tests, they're doing homework. They may not necessarily want to take the tests or do the homework, but they're performing a little bit of austerity that's it's an inconvenience for the kids. They'd rather do something else.
Play.
Right, of course. But with this tapasya, this will benefit them in the future if they perform the tapasya as the children going to school, doing the homework, taking the tests. This will derive future benefit.
Maybe we should make the point that all human beings are expected to undergo some penance or austerity. Penance simply means to undergo some difficulty for greater gain. As people would often say, no pain, no gain. Right. So for people in general, the tendency is there just to want to enjoy all the time. So I remember Lord Rishabhadev saying that the human form of life is meant for tapo divyam, that you should be willing to perform some divine austerity to get Brahma Sukha, spiritual happiness, for eternal Shuddhit, cleansing the consciousness, and then to get permanent happiness. So maybe for people in general, there's a need for spiritual education where they'll be willing to undergo some difficulty. What do you think about that?
Right, well, we're getting material education to make advancement, and we also need to have some spiritual education to also advance spiritually.
How do we put this perspective in that sometimes people are just oriented, they just think that this world is everything, so how do you convince people, well, look, this is not everything, you're going to be out of this picture in a little while?
Well, the gentleman that wrote The Hidden Reality, he came to the conclusion also that the world that we're living in, even the universe that we're living in, with so many countless stars, so many galaxies, that's also not the end, that there are other universes. So we can assume beyond that where are these countless universes coming from? There's even something beyond all of the countless universe and all of the material nature, all of the material realm. There's something beyond that. So there's matter, and then there's also what Prabhupada referred to in the journey of to other planets, easy journey to other planets. There's also antimatter.
Maybe we could, when Srila Prabhupada, when he heard about Socrates and his teaching, right, he commended Socrates. He said he was a self-realized soul and so on. But I remember reading an article of where Socrates went wrong. He didn't have a spiritual master to reveal the Vedic scriptures. And Plato also, he had a theory of, the shadow, but there's the real thing somewhere else, elsewhere. So perhaps you can speak a bit about entering into that perfect knowledge or getting the information about the eternal world, because the gentleman who wrote the book you're speaking about, did he have a guru? I mean, or was it some opinion or some idea he had?
He's just a physicist, a scientist, and he's come up with this idea. I think through mathematical calculations.
Okay, but is it possible that in an authentic way a person can be confident that yes, there is another world and it's like this? I mean, can you speak a little bit
Well,
about...
of course, that knowledge is coming down from the disciplic succession, from one spiritual master to the other coming down. And so when this material world was created, there is a guidebook. Just like, for instance, if you buy a car, you get kind of an owner's manual to tell you what the car is about and how to maintain the car, when to put the oil in the car, when to change various things in the car. So with any appliance, you get an owner's manual, how to treat it, how to maintain it, how it functions best. And so when the universe was created, you know, God didn't just leave us out on a limb. He also gave us the owner's manual. And this is in the form of the Vedas that Lord Brahma spoke at the time of creation. Actually, while he was in meditation, you know, after he received that message, then he climbed back up on the top of the lotus and began his meditation. And in his meditation, he got a vision of the spiritual kingdom.
That's where what he described in what is known as Brahma Samhita.
Exactly, yeah. Well, what is one of those famous verses? Can you share one of the...
Well, I remember him describing, you know, Krishna in the spiritual world. He's adept on playing on his flute. His head is bedecked with a peacock feather.
Right.
You know, so...
and the spiritual realm is made up of Chintamani, touchstone, and Kalpavriksha, wish-fulfilling trees.
So sometimes people might think, wow, this is really fantastic. But it is a fact that the Creator gave detailed information about the spiritual world.
Right, exactly. And not only the spiritual world, but like I mentioned, through the Vedic knowledge, then we have knowledge on how to best utilize the material realm. Because if we don't know how to use the material world, then everything is spoiled.
I guess
so much contamination, so much pollution.
I guess just health for that matter. Let us just speak. There's a division or a portion of the Vedas dealing with Ayurveda is dealing with the physical well-being. Now today people have so many complications, medical science, you know, so many problems just because we do not know about the basic constitution of the body and the needs of the body and so on. So I guess that's an example about...
That's one good example, actually.
Yeah, that actually astronomy, astrology, all different sciences are there in the Vedas.
It's all there. As a matter of fact, with getting back to the creation, you have a few different theories of creation. One is the Big Bang, which was popular for many, many years. But now they're also coming up with another idea called the steady state theory. The steady state theory acknowledges that the universe is in a state of expansion. And they theorize that in some point the expansion will once again turn into a contraction, and the universe will go in on itself. And so again, this is going back to the Vedic paradigm, the Vedic conclusion. We can understand that this is exactly what's happening.
Everything enters into Mahavishnu.
Yeah, the scientists are seeing that the galaxies are moving further and further away from each other. And but at one point they theorize that again everything will come together, and like you're saying, of course we understand that once again on Vishnu's inward breath, everything returns into the being of Vishnu.
As we're about to conclude on our program, perhaps you can put this whole thing in perspective. We exist here, and before our end comes also, what are we expected to do? What would you like to prescribe? Because whenever the universe is going to end, but ours doesn't take that long. What should we do to ensure our perfection in our short lifetime?
Well, the thing is that we have to understand, getting back to the Vedic knowledge, we have to understand the difference between Sat and Asat. Sat means that which is eternal, and then Asat means that which is temporary. So this is the beginning of spiritual knowledge, transcendent reality. We have to distinguish Sat from Asat. Of course, ultimately we can understand ourselves as the parts and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of Lord Krishna himself. We're all emanating from God. Everything is emanating from the Lord. And so once we understand the nature of reality and the temporary forces and the eternal forces, then we can find out that we're marginal. We have a body that's temporary, but the soul is eternal. And the bewildering thing is that we as an eternal soul are kind of maneuvering through this universe, trying to find some happiness out of material things. But it's impossible, because we as a soul are not really attuned or connected to the material nature. That's an illusion that we're connected to the material nature. We as eternal souls are really connected to the spiritual nature.
So we are expected to make that connection in our life.
That's the goal of our lives, yes.
So we've come to the end of today's program, but do join us again next week for a continuing presentation as to more preparation for entering the spiritual realm. Sankirtan Prabhu, thanks very much for being on the program.
Thank you.
I'm Rajarsi
Hare
Dasa saying
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, and do join us again next week for a continuing presentation.
Hare